Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about altered carbon, more in particular, obviously, like the more moral and philosophical elements of, the pseudo immortality that exists in the show. I will be kind of tiptoeing around spoilers, mostly stuff from season 1. So if you haven't seen season 1 of altered carbon, you might want to be a little wary, but I'm going to avoid saying anything about season 2. But like I said, it's just like more so like, because obviously I've talked about it recently in a nerd mode video, but like obviously the whole aspect of stacks is to me one of my favorite aspects of this series, especially just like I said, the whole notion of like this pseudo immortality, because obviously with it comes good and bad, and you kind of obviously see it within a world of altered carbon. Like obviously the thing is, like, it's always it's good to be able to extend people's lives, and like the fact is that you aren't kind of just allocated to just one lifetime, that obviously you can live many different lives. Obviously the bad side of that is because people treat flesh like it's nothing. It's just like, oh, like some people do, not everyone, but some people kind of treat it like, oh, if something happens, I'll just get another body and stuff like that. In certain cases, it's like, oh, I've got this body with this enhancements and stuff like that. So you know how, and I've talked about that, how bodies are seen as almost disposable in certain regards. Obviously, it's still a harsh reality for some people, because obviously getting a sleeve can be very expensive. So under certain circumstances, you want to bring back someone that you love or care about to see them kind of now in a different body, because you have to like pay for certain specific types of bodies. So like if you want a body to kind of match a certain, like, it's a whole complicated thing. So there is a downside to that. And obviously, once again, because of like the social status in this universe, like obviously you have meths who are at the top, who are these rich and powerful people who are rich enough to basically be able to make multiple copies of their DHF, and be able to kind of basically on a regular basis, like, back up themselves. So even if their stack gets destroyed, they have many backups. And it's something I'm talking about, like, not everyone has the resources and money and power and position to do that. But also, kind of going back to the fact of like treating human bodies kind of like they're nothing, like in the sex work lane in this world, that kind of happens, like, because that's something that comes up in season 1 of like, oh, you can like, sadly it crosses that lane of like, oh, you can do whatever you want to this body, because it's like, oh, people who are rich and powerful will end up buying another body, so it's okay. But it's like, no, this is still your body. And in some cases, some people like get tricked into believing like, oh, you're going to get spun back up in a new body, it's going to be better, blah blah blah. But it's still kind of like, this is your body. And some people have that mentality of just kind of being okay with that, and that just shows you just like how messed up it is. I mean, people would even go as far as like, doing terrible things to bodies just because it's like, oh, because of the way this universe exists, that people can bounce from bodies to bodies, because sleeves are so disposable, you can kind of do whatever you want to, and it kind of awakens that terrible side of people. I mean, it's that whole what would be the word, that whole adage, I think would be the right word, the whole thing about you can be the hero, but you live long enough you can turn into the villain, essentially. And that's the whole downside of this whole thing of immortality, because people live so long that they kind of lose their humanity. That was kind of like the whole point of like the envoys. The whole point was to bring back death, because people had gotten so used to living for so long, and eventually it just eats away at your soul. And it's even something, it's a small part of season 2 that kind of gets referenced, that maybe we kind of treat it like it's nothing, but maybe every time you get spun back up, basically it's chipping away a little bit more at your soul, just a little at a time, until you're not even recognizable for who you were before, And so I feel like that's something that's an element we definitely see with the meths in this universe. A lot of people, but more so, the meths, about that whole situation, that you can live so long and just your humanity can be taken away from you. You forget kind of what it is to be a human, because a lot of the meths treat themselves like gods. There's even instances in season 1 where meths were treated like gods, and and just because they're just people who are rich and powerful enough to basically get pseudo immortality, because it's actually sad, because obviously, like, you take Nadia for example, like, she helped create stacks because she wanted to live multiple lifetimes so she could see the stars, but then to see humanity have warped everything that she created into being some terrible thing. And that's why she does what she does, trying to take back to correct a mistake that she feels like she made by making it so that humans could live for so long. Because at the end of the day, it's almost like it doesn't matter how good your intentions are, the road to hell is always paved with them. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how good you are, you can easily get warped over enough time that eventually you will, stop caring as much, that side of you, that empathy, that sympathy starts to deteriorate, and you know, you become almost like a hollow version of who you once were. Almost this element of time can make monsters of us all. It's almost like this cautionary tale of, like, you know, you live long enough, you know, the dark side of living for that long, of what it can do to you, what it can make you into. And like I said, I thought that was just like such a fascinating aspect, and I really like that being an element of that universe. Obviously, this is me speaking more so from the TV show. I don't know if that's an element that's necessarily reflected in the novels. I would assume so, but I could be wrong. I've never read the novels, so I don't know. I'm just basing all this purely on what we've come to know through the TV show. So obviously, these are just my thoughts. I'd love to get to know your thoughts about everything in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out Altered Carbon Season 2 on Netflix. I really like it. I don't know how everyone feels about it, but I think if you like Season 1, you're definitely going to like Season 2. So just a little tiny, I guess, review at the end there. So, but regardless, till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good